Good evening, everyone. My name is Belinda Decay, Director Emeritus of Stonington Free Library, and it is my privilege to welcome all of you on behalf of the Board of Trustees to another of our Sunday evening lecture series. Both everyone gathered here in the library and all those joining us by live stream from places far and near. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank our patrons and faithful donors and the staff and volunteers whose dedication, hard work, skills, talents, and generosity together make this library the magical place that it is. Like all libraries, it is a light set on a hill, a light shining in the darkness. And in these dark times, when all our cultural institutions are under assault, it seems good to recall the rest of that sentence. The darkness will not overcome it. Now it is my great honor and privilege to welcome, I think I've lost a page. That's a good start. Well, sorry. This is a very important part that I was about to leave out. A wonderful example of the generosity and support of our patrons was the response to an appeal made at the Mystery Dinner in June. And as a result, we have been able to purchase a state-of-the-art sound system to replace our woefully inadequate one. That is the good news. But as the old story goes, when you put new wine in old bottles or new tech into an old building, you run into problems. So we do not have our new system in place for this evening. But it will happen. And meanwhile, as in all the best communities, neighbors come to the rescue, and our neighbors at the James Merrill House have loaned us their sound system. So many thanks to everyone, and life goes on. And speaking of sound, please make sure your cell phones are silenced. Now it is my great honor and privilege to welcome back to the library our neighbor and friend, the acclaimed poet Henri Cole, as our guest this evening, to read from his most recent collection of poems, The Other Love, described by poet laureate the late Louise Glück as a triumphant achievement from a consummate artist, and by a reviewer as hopeful and gilded poems. Copies of that book and Henri's earlier book will be available for purchase in the lobby after the program. This is his 12th collection of poems. Is that correct, Henri? I hope so. Yeah, I think. Let's say it's his 12th, many of which have been translated into French, German, and Spanish, and his collection of essays, Orphic Paris, has been translated into Arabic. By the way, don't travel to Paris without a copy in your pocket. Or you can travel to Paris by simply curling up in a chair with the book, and his words will take you there. Henri Cole's poetry has been awarded many of the most distinguished among the poetry prizes. Amongst the long list of honors that he has received, I will mention a few. He was elected to both the American Academy of Arts and Sciences and the American Academy of Arts and Letters. From 1982 to 1988, he was executive director of the Academy of American Poets. In addition to fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts and the Guggenheim Foundation, Professor Cole has held fellowships at Harvard and Yale and has been artist in residence at many of our major universities. He is currently teaching at Claremont McKenna College. We are truly fortunate to have him here to read to us this evening. In his poem, Winter Solstice, the poet says, I want to live to be 95 too, and still be assembling words into music and truth. Everyone who knows Henri Cole and his work would wish the same for him and for us. Thank you, Henri, for being with us tonight and for sharing your hopeful and gilded poems with us. Please give a warm welcome to our distinguished guest, Henri Cole.
We should be okay now.
So do you want to take this off? Or?
All right.
Thank you. Let's see, Belinda. I'll take all that as a compliment. Thank you. I want to thank you all for attending. My goodness, people are always talking about Stonington as a historically literary place of the past, but this makes me feel like it's very much a literary place of the moment, a poetry place of the moment. I want to thank the James Merrill House for loaning us this sound system in a dire moment. And I want to welcome all the people on Zoom in Westport and up in Canada and in Santa Barbara. I know people are listening, so thank you for tuning in. I'm going to read around in my book, The Other Love, and then if there's time, I'd like to read some new things, maybe set more in Stonington, if they don't get me in trouble. So let's see. I think I'll just begin with the... Are we okay to go? Yeah, okay. So this is a poem called Mouse in the Grocery. There are no... Is everything okay with sound? Can you hear me back there, Beth? Can you hear me? Okay. It's very loud to me. How about this? Is that any better? Much better? Okay. Mouse in the Grocery. There are no bacon strips this morning, so a mouse ponders a pound of sugar. A mouse wants what a mouse wants. Salt-cured pork instead of soluble carbs. A mouse is like a heart. It sleeps in winter. It knows uncertain love. It appears to have no gender. Now this mouse regards a woman sprinkling water on lettuce as a man pushes a broom up the aisle. None of us knows what to expect out there. Surely pain is to be a part of it, and the unwelcome intrusion of the past. Like violent weather that makes a grim chiaroscuro of the air before a curtain of rainwater falls, I clutch my basket and push on. The first line of this next poem mentions Claire, who was my translator, who passed away in December at the age of 99. She was a very distinguished translator of many poets from all of Emily Dickinson to all of Wallace Stevens. Winter solstice. Claire says the day will be 1 second longer. Darkness will no longer exceed light. But the weather is abysmal, so hatred of gloom is not an option. I want to live to be 95 too, and still be assembling words into music and truth. For now, I regard a conference of stars with fast-moving clouds. Sometimes my dreams are like explosion pits with scary lava. Yet the earth remains constant, tilting away from the sun and back like a robin to a bare branch. Be somebody with a body, the stars command. Don't be a nobody. I know them by heart as they sink and as they rise. A lot of these poems are free verse sonnets, which is to say that they're not metered and they're, is that Janice? Yes, let me just see. I can't seem to adjust it really. Oh, thank you, Kevin. Yes, Art Burgess in action. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Are you using that one or the one under?
Oh, you mean I'm not even using this one?
No, you're using this one.
Oh.
You want to put it in there?
So this is like theater? I don't know. What is this? That's like a trick. So I don't need this.
You need,
No. Okay. So there's nothing I guess I can do to.
Now there's less sound. Now he's softer. Just because it came back. We're not able to hear his voice.
I'm very sorry. This poem is called Guns. Stick in the mud, old fart. What are you doing to get the guns off the streets? I am not here to pick on anyone, but now that they have shot Yossi, who ground my meat in Hingham, and his shiny pink meat truck is for sale, I feel desolate. A gun is a vengeful machine exacting a price. A gun rejects stillness. It wants to get off. A man can be vain, almost like a god, but inside him is a carp biting the muck of a lake. A man who speaks too softly gets hit with a big stick and lopes along behind. A gun is minatory. Still, a week of kindness is greater. Run, hide, evacuate. Don't fire, duck, take cover. At Yossi's ceremony, his family put a gold cloth on his face. Self-reliant, autonomous, tough, he lay in a shroud of silk. Ode to Hearing. That's not even funny. I'm very sorry. It's true I speak too softly and overthink things, but golly gee, I love listening to him sing in the shower. The universe is chaotic. I don't need to hear this to believe it. So I am immensely grateful when something that at first sounds like despair then isn't, because its very utterance is a victory. Like many taciturn people, I live alone. The barn owl, the rat, the moth, they see at night because of special rods in their ears. But I must have special rods. I messed that up line, excuse me. Like many taciturn people, I live alone. The barn owl, the rat, the moth, they must have special rods in their eyes, but I must have special rods in my ears. Because when he sings like that, it feels as if I'm being brought into existence, and I never, never want to leave this world I so love. Oh, this is a poem I wrote for the new year. It's a list of resolutions. It's called Resolutions. Stop playing catch up with the new generation. Spend less money. Respond, I love you too. Transcribe events without distortion. Tell the lifeguard to teach me the flip turn. Question not where, when, how. Bake bread, put on an album, turn off the cable news. Cherish those who choose honesty over flattery. Ignore plate lickers, sycophants, and opportunists. Nobody there. Eat salmon, mushrooms, greens. Don't surf the net. Don't be a herd of one, like the cardinal blinded by the azure window glass. BMB, be more better. See? I've never read this one aloud, but it seems like a library book, a library poem. It's called My Identity. All my life, reading has made me feel on the verge of something, like a bird turning in the wind to lay itself bare before going higher, with feet stretched out behind, higher than the indifferent trees and noisy earth. I'm grateful to my teachers who nurtured this experience, education being our first need after food. For this created calm within the mutilated bower where I lay, still a nascent thing, muttering language with its two beats, speaking the music of my heart, and with three my mind. Many experience separateness as exhaustion, but I didn't. Instead, I felt so unified and whole, as when sunshine lights up the hut and all the ground around it is warm and dry again. Hi, Tertius. Let's see, this is a COVID poem. It's called Mushroom Soup. I guess it's a double sonnet. Yes. Though not everyone got sick, everyone knew someone who was. Our houses seemed to rest not on the ground, but on the women and caregivers who were God's one concession to us. They said it might start with a tickle in the throat, or feeling winded, or a little pressure on the chest, but the timing wasn't certain. Though the World Health Organization recommended double masking, I never stopped touching my face. I lived alone and grew a tough skin. Now it's the smells I remember mostly, because their loss was said to be a symptom. If I could smell the autumn, pine needles, acorns, and roots underfoot, this might mean another season, if not eternal life, with wind, creeks, birds, and maples repeating themselves. Now, life feels calmer. My heart has fewer barriers, though sometimes I still feel like Galileo under house arrest. At the kitchen table, I eat mushroom soup with salad, munching on the soft frizz of lettuce, like the gray rabbits in the park at dusk, as a great white bird flies around and around in wide circles overhead. Let's see, maybe I'll read 107 Water Street, which when I was in college, I had a teacher at graduate school at Columbia named David Cowstone, and as many of you know, he was Merrill's best friend. They were like brothers. And I learned a lot about poetry from David Cowstone, whose ashes were dispersed in the harbor here, and some of them are in a backyard, someone's backyard who's here tonight. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to come back to Stonington, was just to sort of be in the zone of my mentor. And David introduced me to Merrill. I was just 24 or 25 years old then. And I think I came to Stonington in 1995 to see the poet J.D. McClatchy, who lived here. And that day we had lunch with James Merrill, and that was his last, I think that was his last summer. And that was the last time I was here for a long time, until my friend Gigi Bradford, who I knew from my youth, encouraged me to apply to the James Merrill House. And that's really what got me back in the loop, was spending a fall at the end of COVID in the James Merrill House and meeting a lot of wonderful people. In fact, I should say I'll do my little advocacy right now and encourage all of you to sign a petition that Muriel is circulating, Muriel Fontana. She'll have the petition out front to sign for getting an emergency exit in case we ever needed a gate. If the bypass was not available, I encourage you all to sign it on your way out. So 107 Water Street. It has an epigraph: small town is largely a state of mind, from James Merrill's The Changing Light at Sandover. All the sailboats in the harbor face north. I can see 24 from your study window. Overhead, large white birds fly around in the September glow. The sky is baby blue without a single cloud. The house at 24 Main Street finally sold. Isn't that where Venture Smith lived? He was the son of a prince who purchased his freedom. History cannot be unlived. Chez Perigny, I visited David's ashes under a chestnut where edible mushrooms, Phallus ravenelli, now grow. And Libby, a rescue dog from Tennessee, nuzzled me and licked my lashes. At the farmer's market, the cheesemonger couldn't stop talking. A young man at Nana's bakery gave me a brioche and smiled kindly. And Mrs. Purity of Purity Farm, I love her peaches, stepped right out of a small Dutch painting. All night I hear the clinking halyard lines before dawn. I buy a coffee at Tom's newsstand and sit with your big Petite Larousse, La Fontaine, and my ardor. September is a time to feel the light, write, scratch out, write, nap, walk, begin again. I'm too afraid of jellyfish to swim with Jonathan out to the breakwater. Instead, I sit with Penny at her long dining table and eat beef bourguignon. You make me feel I almost belong. I didn't own a house when I wrote that. And while I was here at the Merrill House, I took it upon myself to plant a big fern from the Callahan's lovely fern garden on the grave of James Merrill. But I'm afraid it hasn't lasted the 3 years since then. But I wrote this poem, Autumn Fern, which appeared in the New Yorker, in fact. I'm not sure people understood I was writing to James Merrill. The you in the poem is meant to be Merrill. I hope you won't mind a fern on your grave, standing on the shovel to dig a deep hole. I'm a year younger than you are now. I've written a will and reread the old masters. Swimming out to the breakwater, maybe a part of me is you, touching buoy 328 before turning back to the Borough beach. Maybe my hairy body is like a bee's eating pollen grains from 1,000 flowers, spreading nectar across the comb in darkness, then flapping my wings to dry up the water and hasten the creation of viscous honey. If the lane to the dead is generative, as you said, let this hole be a point of light. That's the black bean buoy, buoy 328. I see them back there. Let's see, I think I'll read a few new things. They too are sonnet length, so they're short. One of my favorite things when I bought my house was that dilapidated Victorian barn on Gold Street. So this is a poem called The Gold Street Barn. Gold Street Barn. In watercolors, I might have painted it negatively, letting the barn emerge from the cobalt sky like a venerable house in a historic landscape. From my upstairs bedroom window, I used to ponder its sagging timber shoulders and open gable roof, the weeds all around it metamorphosed by moonlight. I hope beyond hoping that we live beyond this life. But when a red tractor with a maw-like mechanical grapple knocked the barn down, leaving only dust, detritus, and silence, I mourned the emptiness. Then waxwings, bees, hornets, cicadas, a bat, swallows, and all the rest of them arrived in the gold daylight, falling upon mushrooms, blueberries, lichens, and ferns. The air smelt of honey. This emptiness was not nothing, but the opposite of fullness, and my grief was gone. Let's see, some years ago I visited a prison in Greenville, Illinois, where I read my poems. I guess it was a medium security prison. And I didn't write anything for a long time, but then in May I wrote this. It's called Greenville, Illinois. After the metal detector, there was no pat down. A guard marked my wrist with an infrared ideogram that shone in black light. Since I had cleared a background check, my poetry books were my only identification. The inmates sat in bleachers of the big gymnasium where the sultry air smelled of perspiration and weights. After I read each poem, they snapped their fingers to encourage me to keep going. A few licked soft-serve cones. Wearing clean khaki uniforms, they raised their hands politely to pose rather personal questions before forming a line like ambassadors to shake my hand. A famous economist had argued with them about capitalism, they told me, which they believed was based on lies, not trust. If you lie, they said, you become president. This is called The Old Way Was Better. Mr. President, I don't want to be like you, cutting and giving pain, tearing us apart, sneering and wounding. Also, you exaggerate so much. You think the world revolves around you with your big defects. My father's people grew peaches and tobacco in exchange for shelter and groceries. My mother's escaped a genocide. You make me feel second-rate because I have no biological function. Mr. President, you seem like a guilty man who is running. It's embarrassing when you rant confidently about things you don't know about. I think the old way is better, with books and scientists. What can I say? If you watch the animals, I think you will learn more about yourself and us, about the blue sky, about the blue of the night sky, the white of our eyes, and the red of the blood drawn from our bodies. Thank you. I think I'll read two more. And then I'm happy to answer questions if people have questions. Is that okay? This is called gardening. They say that beauty makes everything easier. So I've planted roses to climb the north fence that belongs to my neighbor and is falling down, but I don't mind. Their young shoots are prickless with pale leaves on red stems. They are resistant to mildew and frost and tolerant of pruning. I love their fragrant, white, cream to pink, silky blossoms. Late at night, waiting for them, I contemplate the multitude of moonlit dandelion seed heads that speak to something different deep inside me, where plainly a schizophrenia of taste thrives. What story does the garden tell? You who dwell with me in this place of puffballs and nascent green, we must shut down our mind monkey and live. And I'll end with this one called My Bird Bath. I have a beautiful bird bath thanks to Vilma. I don't know if Vilma's here. Standing at the window, I watch robins clean themselves in the cement bird bath, splashing water up over their backs to remove dirt and parasites before hopping to the ledge to fluff their feathers. Like my neighbors, They are drinkers and seem mortal but free, pointing their bills up to the sky as if they were in a secluded stream instead of my backyard. How intensely involved with themselves they are, preening and drinking the water I carried for them this morning from my sink. Farewell to the dust and ants of village life. Red robins, you make me feel such tenderness and awe. Yes, their eyes are underneath the ground now. But look, the sky is blue. The force of life is replenishing itself. Hurry up, come on, be quick, some men say. But my revenge is to live and sing the things I cannot say. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I'm so relieved this is done. I have been just dreading this. So thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer questions. Please, I am so grateful to you all for coming on this beautiful summer day, one of the best. Anyone want to venture forth? Yes, Gigi.
I'll start.
Okay.
I didn't know that you'd read your work at a prison.
Yes.
And how did you decide which poems to read to that audience?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not even sure I remember what I read. Something just went through my head about what I did read, actually. Well, two things just went through my head. One is that I read two dear, I lived when I was about 45 in Japan, which is where I was born. And I once went to Nara, where there were all these semi-tamed deer, 1,000 semi-tamed deer, they're unbelievably beautiful. And I had written a poem about napping with my head against a deer. And the prisoners just loved that. They really loved this idea of sleeping with a deer. I remember that struck me. And Joyce Carol Oates, who's coming next weekend, she told me that she read my poem. She was living in Berkeley, and she taught at a prison, I think Alcatraz, actually. Is that in San Francisco Bay? Is that the one in San Francisco Bay? Yeah. She told me, I have a poem called Pig, about a pig on a flatbed truck going to slaughter, and they really identified with that poem too. But they were kind of amazing. The prisoners were kind of amazing for their, I don't know, they were quite genteel in a funny way, I loved going there. I went there, I think I had been at Wash U, and someone drove me to Illinois from Wash U. I think that's what it was. Another poet nearby asked if I would do this, and I'd never done it. I have a nephew that went to prison, so I was curious. Yes, Lisa.
You know about our local novelist, Wally Lamb? He had a writing workshop at our local women's prison.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yes, it was very successful. He had the inmates write, little stories and everything, and it was very rehabilitative to them.
Yes, that's nice to know. There's a program at my college where the kids, I have a colleague who teaches African American literature, and he takes a bus once a week with a bunch of kids to a prison, I think out in the desert somewhere, and they read together. Yes, sir. Oh, over here. I'm sorry. Yes. Oh, Belinda, excuse me. Yeah, one moment. Yeah.
I'm curious. We have a display
Oh, do you?
behind you of books that I thought had been important or influenced
Yes.
poets. And I was wondering if you could mention ones that are very important to you.
Well, in my 30s, my favorite poet, I think, was Merrill. The poems of Nights and Days were my favorite. They combined formal music with beautiful language and primary feeling in a way that are important to me. I think a lot of poetry does one of those things very well, but very few poets do all three things well, and I think he was a poet. And as he got closer to death, I think he became, an even more magnificent poet. I don't know who else is on the shelf. I see Merrill. I don't see anyone else.
Oh, there's Heaney and Bishop,
Oh, Heaney and Bishop, yes. Well, they're both.
Baudelaire.
I was a colleague of Seamus Heaney's at Harvard. I started, my teaching life there for 6 years, and he was a colleague and became a dear friend. And he is, he's like I remember someone comparing Heaney to Merrill. They were big reputations at the same time, and one was silk and the other was burlap, is the way they were introduced. And he too is an example of formal attention and beautiful language and music. And I was actually at Harvard. There was an evening with the two of them reading together. It was a very memorable occasion. Elizabeth Bishop is my favorite poet. She is my favorite poet probably of the last 50 years of the last century. I revere her greatly, and I'd like to write a little book about her if I could, somehow. That's in a very nascent stage. I don't know, Baudelaire in college, I had a teacher, Richard Howard, who was the translator of Flowers of Evil, is that the name of it in English? Yeah, so French literature was also very important to me. My mother was French, and I like being near the French language. I'm not bilingual, but I feel mothered by the French language. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, Margaret?
I have a question that's probably impossible.
Okay, I'll do my best.
I really am responding very, very positively and wonderfully to your voice, the voice of the poems. Clarity is one word I would use. Simplicity is another.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, they're the kind of clarity and simplicity of a window, which we're able to see what you see, but also, and what happens for me is not a voice that is hugely authoritative, but is really authentic and capacious, and I just love it.
Well, thank you. I love you for saying that.
Well, I have a reason for all of this.
Okay, oh, you want me to write a recommendation? No, no.
I'm just curious, because I don't know the 12 books back.
Yeah.
And so forth. But has this, what I've been describing, or trying to describe, that I feel in your work now,
Mm-hmm.
has that always been present?
No, I don't think so.
Is it a feature of getting older?
Well, I think it is. I think when you begin as a writer, you're sort of more orchestral, you might say. And as your life goes on, and you love language, and you're trying to make something, and so the orchestral thing is exciting, maybe more exciting. But I think the journey of life is towards the single pure voice, you know. Understatement is really important to me. Understatement to the point, like that little presidential poem is so understated, it almost maybe seems like a child is speaking it. It was an experiment, you know. I don't know. You know, I don't know if it's a keeper, but I wanted to read it. But I think understatement. There's so much that is overstated that I'm interested in how understated I can be. If you know, the danger of it is that you'll be given short shrift. You know, I think, but c'est la vie.
Describe it as the difference between loving to look at stained glass, but you can't see through it, and there's something otherworldly about it. And what I like about the window is the plainness and the clarity and both ways stuff.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that voice.
It's important to me that there be fear, grief, desperation, triumph, some primary feeling, but also it's important to me that there be a sense of original language, something arranged in some interesting way. Yes, Betsy, I'm so glad to see you.
I'd love to hear more about how you feel your topics and the manner of writing has evolved over the years, and also if you want to talk about what the experience of living in James Merrill's place was like and how that affected.
Thank you, Betsy, for your question. I'm happy to see you. Let me think. I think I didn't come out of the closet till I was 30. So my poems were not gay, you might say, until I was middle-aged. That's one big difference. I wrote a lot when I was a young man about the animal kingdom, and I used, you know, I think it's Oscar Wilde has that quote. I can't resurrect the quote, but if you're given a mask, you're able to speak more truthfully to your predicament. And so I used the animal kingdom or myth or fairy tale to do that. I mean, I don't really do that so much anymore. I do write a lot about animals still. I'm a lyric poet, so most of my poems are snapshots of myself in moments of being, but occasionally I like to flip the camera around and to speak to the historical moment, as in ones that make reference to, you know, the president. Other ways my work has changed, I think, yeah, I think that's maybe true. I think maybe, what was the second part of your question?
The experience of living in James.
Oh, the James Merrill house. Well, that was, I loved it. I mean, I was working on La Fontaine, the Fables of La Fontaine translations, which I refer to in that poem, which I haven't really published yet. There's one poem in the book which comes from that. There's a, what is it called? The French version is, yes, it's in the French version, it's the cat metamorphosed into a woman. And it's a story of a man who loves his cat so much, you know, he wants to sleep with her and marry her, you know. But it seemed so sexist. I made it into the cat who was, you know, metamorphosed into a man. In my, you know, I did a sort of very free translation of it. But I worked on those fables there, so I didn't really write about that space. I wrote an essay about staying there. I didn't write it. I think that poem that I wrote, it was actually in the weeks after I left there. I was afraid, I find generally that I have to leave a place to write about it. Those poems about Stonington I wrote in Paris, actually, early in the summer. But that's an interesting question. I hope that my work will continue to change. I mean, I think I have 2 or 3 more books in me. I'm 69, I don't know. Every 4 or 5 years I've published a book. Yes, Janice. Fairy tales. I can't say fairy tales. When I lived in Japan, I went to this film series. They were all revenge films. They were often about a woman who was revenging her husband in some wicked way. But I read all the novels of Kawabata when I lived in. He was a Nobel laureate, a beautiful, very beautiful novelist. And actually from Kawabata, I picked up my love of similes. He uses similes beautifully. And I think simile is one of the things I place highest at my altar to poetry. But I don't know about Japanese fairy tales. Yeah. Oh, yes, about I could see marrying a cat. I mean, actually, I know a lot of people who have married their cats. I do. I could see that. Anyone else? Yeah. Yes, Mary Gordon, nice to see you. I'm so optimistic. Yes. I'm surprised too, Mary. I know. I do feel optimistic. I mean, I feel I've written numerous, very dark books, and I do feel optimism. I don't know. I feel each day when I swim, I feel renewed. I mean, I wake up and basically the day is degenerative, and until 4:15 when I swim to the buoy, and then it's like everything flips over again, and that's the cycle of my day, But I work hard to be optimistic, to spend time with friends, to be, eat good meals with people you love, and read good, I mean, there are many things to be grateful for, I feel, despite the fact that the front page is all black. Thank you, Mary. It's nice to see you. Anybody else? Maybe it's time for a cocktail. See you later, yeah.